What's going on, everyone? It's Dottie here, your host on The Progressive Vibe. Today is Monday, October 5th, 2020. I hope everyone had a great, safe weekend, as well as your family and friends. My weekend was okay. Nothing special, but it was good weekend. It was a good weekend. I didn't have to I didn't have to work, so I got to just chill out for real. Drink a little wine and hang out and just not consume politics as I do the rest of the days in the week. But it's something that I do like doing, so it's not really bad. But again, I hope everybody's doing good. I'm sorry that I couldn't make a podcast yesterday. I kind of got behind, and before I knew it, it got really late, and it was no point in the making one because it was really, really late. And so I decided to just make one today. So again, sorry about that. But yeah, we're here today making one, and I'm excited about it. And I want to, before we get into today's subject at hand, I do want to again thank everyone for listening to my podcast. Thanks for sharing, guys. I have seen a little spike in my viewership in my podcast. So, credit, where credit's due, giving credit where credit's due. Thank you guys for, checking me out. And if you love it, thank you so much. Even if you don't like it, that's fine too. Thank you, guys. Thank you for, at least giving it time and, checking it out. Uh, I really, really do appreciate it, guys. And I also want to say, um, when it comes to politics, I really, really, when it comes to this podcast, speaking more broadly, I really, really want to say, I just speak directly from the heart. I don't really try to sugarcoat anything. I try to again, speak from the heart. There's no right or wrong answers when it comes to politics abroad, but there is a right or wrong when it comes to human decency and just being a humanity. I tend to disagree with a lot of people that I know when it comes to politics, but at the same time, I wouldn't dare not want the best for them and their families because they're trying to live this thing called life just like I am. And, we can have difference of opinion, uh, but I really, really hope as a country we all want what's best for thy neighbor. Even if you don't, um, even if you don't really hang with that person or hang with their families or other friends, or if y'all don't do the same thing, or if y'all two opposite people. I mean, I know uh, a bunch of people that I wouldn't necessarily hang with or anything like that. We don't have the same type of hobbies or anything like that, but it doesn't get in the way of the bigger picture in my eye, which is wanting the best for mankind. Because I just feel like if we all do everything for the greater good together, you never know the endless possibilities of which, you know, us as human beings could, excuse me, could reach. The possibilities are inevitable. So uh, I just want to say to everybody that, excuse me, I just want to say to everybody that is or has listened to my podcast, uh, I really, really do hope that you guys, at least, even if you don't think that I know what I'm talking about or you don't agree with me, I hope you know that I'm coming from a good place. That my intentions aren't bad or anything like that. It's just how I feel and, where I'm speaking, and that's from the heart. So, after that being said, uh, my podcast today, I wanted to get into is the first debate. My thoughts on the first debate uh, between Trump and Biden. If you guys didn't know, they had a first debate last Tuesday, and yeah, it was probably the worst debate I've ever watched. Um, I actually had to work, so I had to record it when I got off. So I made sure to get a huge bottle of wine because I knew I was going to have to drink during this debate because I knew it was going to be a show, but I didn't know it was going to be uh, that big of a shit show, and it was. I don't think the two candidates, which is Trump and Biden, I honestly don't think they had any type of substance in their debating. To me, it wasn't even a debate. To me, it was just, you know, a bunch of old guys arguing on stage. That's kind of what I got from it. Uh, if you guys didn't know who the commentator was for that debate, his name was Chris Wallace. I think he has his own show on Fox. He's been, I want to say Chris Wallace has been with Fox quite a while. He's been one of the long lasting anchormen on that network for a while. So, and uh, even though I don't watch Fox necessarily, uh, Chris Wallace is one of the few who has held uh, the other party accountable. So, yes, he has held Democrats accountable, but he has also held Republicans, Trump. He has held him accountable. If Trump then lied or something like that, then, usually Chris Wallace will, say that, and so I think that their choice of commentary with Chris Wallace, I think that was a good choice. Um, but it was so surprising because he had to keep he had to keep intervening on Trump. He had to keep interrupting. Because Trump kept interrupting Biden. Every time Biden was trying to answer a question that Chris Wallace would ask, Trump wouldn't. He wasn't allowing him to speak. So Chris Wallace had to, he had to intervene. He had to jump in, and you could you can kind of see that Chris Wallace wasn't expecting that. I mean, I think he was expecting it for it to be uh, intense, but I honestly think that it was so intense. Trump was so hot coming into that debate. I think it really, really caught Chris Wallace off guard. I think during one moment, if I'm not mistaken, Biden even told Trump to shut up, because again, Trump came in hot, man. He was just like interrupting Biden the whole time and, really wasn't letting him get a word in edgewise. Um, and the crowd was it was kind of weird. I think that they agreed, both sides, that they weren't going to applaud or cheer or get any kind of reaction to either of the candidates during the debate. And honestly, it made the crowd jobs a lot easier because if you watch that debate, if you're in that crowd, what did we just watch? You don't. If I was in that crowd, I wouldn't have reacted any kind of way with Trump or Biden. Because it was just like, is this really what the country, you know, has best to offer? You're just looking at that and you're just like, man, like this is embarrassing. And I feel the crowd was taken back. Uh, Meaning I don't know if anything resonated with both of the candidates. I don't know if anything kind of went through or clicked on any side of the spectrum. I just think that the crowd was taken back. And again, all it was yelling and interruption the whole time. It wasn't any kind of uh, it wasn't any kind of substance. I will say a lot of what Trump did and said in 2016, resonated with folks. A lot of stuff that Trump said in 2016 debating Hillary, or not even when he got chosen to be the candidate to pick, the Republican candidate being chosen to run up against the Democratic candidate, the primary, he was, he was on that Trump mode, meaning he was pretty much interrupting and having like this kind of bully type mentality. You know what I mean? And but it didn't really seem to stick this time around. Because honestly, if you go back and look at the tape in 2016 during the primary, the Republican primary, during the run up for election with Trump and Hillary, um, you know, Trump did a lot of what he did in that debate Tuesday, which was, sorry guys, I had got a knock at the door. I think it was the mailman, so I had to stop the podcast. Sorry about that. But where I left off was, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the type of mentality that Trump had in 2016. Um, it resonated with a lot of folks during the Republican primary, during the run up debate with him and Hillary. And it resonated, and it just seemed like this go around, it didn't resonate, it didn't stick, it didn't land because to me it was just a lot of stuff that Trump didn't use that's he just used before and it got played out. The country is uh way beyond obviously 2016, just on the standpoint to where you have a pandemic, and it's exploiting a lot of other stuff um that's been wrong with what's been wrong with government as abroad, when it comes to actually helping people, everyday people. It just seems like the government is more set up to help the corrupt and the rich, than it is, helping the average American people who, again, and I'm not trying to say that all rich people are this and that, because hey, if you're rich and you work hard to get what you're trying to get, then, more power to you, but it when you see these major companies that have influence over politicians who we elect to put in office, when we see that kind of stuff happening, you see that stuff happening before your eyes, and when you see large corporations like Amazon, um, like Chevron, places like big companies like that, it's so many more, but I don't have the list in front of me, but these big corporations who do not pay taxes, is highway robbery to to American people. It just is, and It just seems like during this debate, Trump and Biden used the American people a lot. Well, the American people want this, the American people want that. Okay, but like both of you guys' resumes speak to not helping the American people. You know, if I have to give an edge, it will be Biden, and that's not saying much, because Biden has uh, a questionable track record of things that he's done in his 47 years in office that hasn't really benefited the American people. And doesn't really take a rocket science to kind of bring up the stuff that Trump has done in his 4 years as president, and it hasn't been, in my opinion, good at all. Um, but to me, Biden was a little more prepared than Trump in this debate. Um, and that's just because Trump came in too hot. He just came in way too hot. He came in way too aggressive. And I mean, maybe that sticks with his base support, you know. I'm pretty sure they liked it that, but if you're going to be pulling in independent voters, people who don't know to vote you or for Biden, they're still um, up for grabs, then I don't know if Trump won anybody over. Uh, More so than Biden lost anybody. I don't think Biden lost any support, and I don't think Trump gained any support. So, but yeah, guys. So I want to talk about it a little bit more after this break. Um, I'm going to give you guys some more of my takeaways from the debate. So stick around, and we will be back. What's up, guys? It's Dottie here. We're back on the Progressive Vibe. So, as I was saying in the last segment, I want to pick up where I left off at from my takeaways uh, on Trump and Biden. Like I said, I feel like Trump came in way too hot. He 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 came off as a bully, and he was kind of rude throughout. You know, not letting Biden finish, or uh, interrupting Chris Wallace and not letting Chris Wallace, the commentator. I mean, again, Chris Wallace is a conservative. He's anchorman on Fox. So he Trump was attacking Chris Wallace to a certain extent, and again wasn't letting him finish his questions. So in that regard, I just think Trump came in way too hot. Uh, Now, again, like I said before, we ended first segment. If you're a Trump supporter, then you might have think he did a good job, and you might like his bully type mentality uh, throughout the debate. So a lot of people took away from that, maybe that are supporters of Trump, was like, yeah, I'm glad that he came in that way. This is what I want to see. This is what I want to hear. It's music to my ears. Um, but I mean, if you're on the opposite side, meaning you don't like Trump, then you probably came away from that debate thinking, this guy who you thought he was, he's the same guy you thought he was in 2016. He's a moron, maybe a little crazy. He's rude. More than likely racist. So, but believe it or not, though, it's a lot of undecided voters out there are seeing Trump and Biden speak and debate for the first time. And I know we live in such a polarized era right now. Everybody's pretty much on their, chosen side. It's kind of hard to believe that it is a lot of undecided voters out there, but it is. It is. And I just don't know if Trump's message from that debate resonated with independent voters, you know, and that could be something that can be said for Biden as well. You know, Joe Biden in the first part of the debate looked to be pretty nervous when he was when Trump was, you know, pretty much interrupting everything he was trying to say when asked a question by Chris Wallace. You know, he came out a little fluttered. He he came out a little nervous, you know. It seemed it seemed like as the debate progressed, Biden kind of got his feet back under him by telling, you know, Trump to shut up or whatever like that. You know, being a little bit more forceful with his answers and his responses. Um, I don't think I don't think Trump picked up any new voters simply because, and this was one of the, it wasn't an eye-opening moment, but it was almost like a moment of clarity, if you will, because it kind of really just put a magnifying glass under Trump's obvious, obvious white supremacist mentality. You know, Chris Wallace asked Trump a simple question. He said, what did he say? He said, "Do you denounce white supremacy?" Now, he asked it point blank and clear. Do you denounce white supremacy? And, you know, Trump he would not say yes. He just wouldn't say it, you know. And I remember during the debate, Trump asked Chris Wallace to give him specifics, like, you know, give me a specific, you know, what kind of white supremacy are you talking about? Are you talking about KKK? Are you talking about neo-Nazis? You know, like, be specific on what racist group are you talking about? I guess that's what Trump was saying. And Chris Wallace gave him an example. He said, "How about the Proud Boys?" So I don't know if you guys know who the Proud Boys are, but to be fair, I want to say I don't think that the Proud Boys are affiliated with white supremacists or white supremacy, but I believe they are I don't want to say, well, I mean, I don't know. It's been some physical action at protest rallies, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. They have been caught on camera attacking peaceful protesters. That's just a fact. But to go back to what Trump was saying, because he wasn't done with what he was saying about Proud Boys. He was asked that question, and he was like, you know, Chris Wallace said, you know, how about denouncing Proud Boys? And so Trump said, well, I want them to stand back and stand by. So he's pretty much saying to these Proud Boys, or these folks, whoever they is, who have been caught again on tape attacking peaceful protesters, to stand back and stand by. To me, that's a dog whistle. You know, if you don't know specifically, again, who the Proud Boys are, look them up. But anyway, he told them to stand back and stand by. So, yeah, that was a lot. Yeah, that was a pretty big moment in the debate, that he just, like, wouldn't denounce white supremacy. But I mean, yeah, like, if you don't know Trump's track record, if you don't know who this guy is by now, then, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I remember in a point of the debate that stuck with me too. Chris Wallace asked Trump, "Will you accept the elections of the or the results of the election?" And Trump wouldn't even give no clear cut answer on that. Um, Chris Wallace asked Biden the same question, and Biden gave a clear yes answer. If I was to win, I would accept the results. If I was to lose, I would accept the results. So the fact that Trump, even if he loses, it's a possibility that he won't even accept the results. I mean, I don't, I don't, I don't know if that don't move independent thinking, independent voters. I don't know what will. To be honest, I don't know what will move independent voters. Um, if that don't, but it might not. It might not. Um, Again, though, I think Biden did okay. Just to put a bow on everything, I think Biden did okay. Uh, just because he did clap back at the necessary moments he needed to when it came to Trump. I don't know. I think he could have been a little bit more strong in some of his answers. Like for example, Trump told Biden in one moment of the debate. I think it was a question about lowering the cost of prescription drugs, and Trump said to Biden, "In your 47 years in office, uh, and you never did lower the cost of prescription drugs." I mean, that's a fact. That's true. He didn't, and Trump he got a point. Uh, but in regards to that, in response to that, Biden should immediately clap back with, well, 200 over 200,000 people dead because of your lack of incompetence. Um, Easy, easy, because it's a fact. It's a fact that Biden ain't did nothing. Pretty much, I'm not gonna say Biden ain't did nothing in his 47 years in office, but uh, Trump did land a blow on him on that because that is accurate. I would agree with Trump on that. But that doesn't take away from all the failures that Trump has over his 4 year tenure as president. It's been abysmal. It's been awful. It's been all kind of words. Me personally, it's been all kind of words that has to do with terrible, awful, any kind of word you want to use when it comes to bad. That's what Trump's presidency has been in my eyes to everyone as a whole, white folks, black folks, Latino, Asian, uh, whoever that's living in the country. I don't think that he has had the best message for the American people. Um, I just feel like Biden came out with like this old school type of approach. And you can't do that when you debating somebody like Trump. Again, yes, be professional with your approach, but also you got to be strong while you're doing it. And I think that Biden was lacking that in this debate with Trump. Um, you got to really, really nail home the things that Trump has not done that he has promised. And again, um, Biden has done questionable, bad things while he was in office. But if we're choosing less of the two evils here, on which unfortunately we have to do again, uh, I'm going to give Biden that edge. It seems like he's doing good in the polls when it comes to Trump. I take that with a grain of salt because anything can happen, anything can change. but they both did very, very average. But since Biden is up in the polls and he seemed less as a lunatic as Trump did in that debate, I'm going to have to give the slight edge to Biden. Uh, but yeah, it was a hell of a shit show, if to say the least. And again, the biggest things I took away from that was uh, Trump not denouncing white supremacy, and there were no substance. There was just no substance in what Trump or Biden was talking about in that debate. No policy substances. It was just like, you know, he said this, well, he promised this, and the American people want this, and the American people want that. But again, it wasn't any kind of substantive policies that they had that was going to get or people like me, I can't speak for everybody, but people like me, it didn't have enough substance for me to have me inspired to go vote for either of them. Now I'm going to go vote at the polls. I'm going to vote for Biden because Trump is just that bad to me personally. But I don't want people to get it confused that I'm thinking Biden is some kind of like uh, perfect candidate selection, because he's not. But I think that he is leaning in the right direction, and I'll take that. I don't. He's not. He's not. Uh, he's not promised any. He's really not promised any kind of progressive policies, which is a downer. It's kind of sad, and I'm kind of nervous that Trump base does have enthusiasm more than Biden's base, because they're enthusiastic to vote for Trump, even though Trump, to me, um, is a bad president. But again, that's what a democracy is, even though Trump's trying to take that away by like not having people vote mail in if they during a pandemic if they wanted to, taking or removing post boxes, so things like that. But again, this is a democracy, and if people like Trump more so than Biden, then they have the right to vote for Trump. But at the same time, it wouldn't be a discussion if you had policies on the table that's going to help everyone. And so once you implement these policies, once you get these policies signed into legislation, it's going to resonate more with people who didn't necessarily want to vote Democratic. But if you're bringing things to the table that resonate with just the average person, the independent mind, or even, again, the opposite side. If your side is proposing more popular ideas, you see it in Poland, then why not go for it? But we're dealing with two corrupt politicians, so it's kind of like, well, what else would you expect from these two? But gotta have faith, you gotta have hope, and I got faith and hope that Biden will lean into doing more of the right thing that's going to help people out, even if it's not everything. But I think that he's more inclined to be steered in that direction. So that's me personally. That's why I'm more inclined to vote for him than I am Trump. So after this break, guys, I'm going to come back with the vintage session, and we're just going to chit chat and wrap things up on the other side. So yeah, guys, stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages. What's going on, guys? We're back here on The Progressive Vibe. I'm your host, Dottie. This is the vintage session of the podcast, so it's going to be a little bit more freestylish, a little off the top, just nothing that I wrote down in particular to talk about. It was just some stuff that was on my mind that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and it's kind of just mainly about the COVID response. It's so many people have lost their jobs, unfortunately, and it's a lot of people seeing their unemployment get slashed, if they're even getting any employment at all. People getting evicted from their homes. They're just trying to make it out here just like anybody else. We all trying to make it out here. It's just unfortunate to see the cracks. I don't even want to say cracks. It's not even cracks at this point. I just hate to see the devastation within our government. It doesn't work for us. Not saying that it won't work for us in the future, but as of right now, it just doesn't work for us. If you guys didn't know or not, President Trump tested for positive. Him and his wife, the First Lady Melania, tested positive for the coronavirus, as well as other people within the White House. I think it's like a total of 11, 12 people in the White House that has coronavirus. And again, I don't wish death on anybody. I hope President Trump and his wife and everybody else who has gotten coronavirus inside the White House, I hope they make a full recovery. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to minimize the fact this whole year that Trump and his administration and the Republicans, for the most part, not all the Republicans, but for the most part, pretty much all of them, has been trying to sow doubt, has been trying to downplay the seriousness of this sickness, this disease. And if that's being lenient on CDC guidelines, telling people we recommend you wear a mask, but you don't have to. Not anything being mandated nationwide. And it's simply because a lot of people out here, unfortunately, they kind of go along with what President Trump be saying. He didn't say that, if you don't want to wear a mask, you should not be required to wear one if you don't want one. Or the mask really doesn't protect you from the virus, or just all kind of outlandish things that he's been saying that has been sowing doubt in the people in this country and stuff. And it's unfortunate because that man has a lot of power and he has a lot of followers, and it's a shame that we in 2020, it's a shame that we're politicizing a freaking disease, that a lot of scientists, a lot of professionals in that area are still trying to collect data and still trying to fight this disease with different types of test medications, and they haven't found, as I know, they haven't found a clean cut vaccine. It's still in the test trial And you know, Trump had to. I seen on the news that Trump had to get lifted out of the White House. You know, they had to helicopter him out on Air Force One and take him to the hospital. And I don't know. Some of the doctors that came out to speak on his behalf, they seemed like they were a little shaky in some of their answers. They were kind of deflecting. One reporter asked has President Trump been on oxygen? And the reporter was like, he hasn't been on oxygen yesterday or today. That's correct. Well, the reporter didn't ask you that. The reporter asked you, has he been on oxygen? Like, period. Has he needed oxygen? And the doctor didn't answer. He just didn't. He just deflected. So I know he has a job to do. I know that Trump's that kind of person. If you don't speak positive on his behalf, if he don't like it, because obviously he's watching, he can replace you at any moment. But I just feel like at this moment in time, again, I understand he's in a hard place, that physician, but in this time and with everything that's going on, you have to be as transparent and as honest as possible in these moments of just moments of just devastation, moments of a lot of people out here being terrified, being scared. Preferably a lot of older people, and it's sad when you can't even trust your own White House for information on a deadly disease such as coronavirus, because you got the president again downplaying it. I seen they got videos out now, after he left the hospital, which the doctors weren't recommending him leaving the hospital, as I heard. But for whatever reason, Trump wanted to go back to the White House. And after I seen the video, it kind of made it obvious why he was doing that. Another photo op, another trying to prove the so-called naysayers wrong or whatever like that. If you watch the video that I watched, guys, you can pull it up. I'm pretty sure it's all over Twitter and Facebook or whatever. He was breathing really, really heavy, like he was gasping for air, and it didn't look good. I'm gonna just say it like that. Now, he said in one of his interviews at the hospital, after the hospital, when he was actually he did a recording on the balcony. He was just saying that he hasn't felt this great in 20 years, and the doctors were tremendous, and they have me feeling like a spring chicken again. And it's just amazing that President Trump's using free public health care, and he's not even allowing people free public health care. And it's not just him. You got people on the other side of the party, the Democratic Party, who are in line with the pharmaceutical companies, and they lobby for these people, and they're not going to go against their donors because their donors pay them money, and they're not going to go against what their donors say, even if they go in front of the camera and they say, well, hey, look, we think that, all people should have access to health care, and or whatever, knowing that that's not true for the vast majority of politicians that are in Congress today. That's unfortunate. But again, back to Trump, he worked on gutting Obamacare, and again, Obamacare is not the best health care, but it's better than what people have had in the past. And it's a bunch of people, even on Trump's side, a bunch of his constituents, a bunch of his base actually wants to keep Obamacare because it helps people. It helps people. And then Trump ends up, cutting Obamacare. I think it kicks like 20 million people off of healthcare. Now, if you ask me, again, Obamacare doesn't go far enough. I'm with Bernie and a bunch of other progressives that say it needs to be a Medicare for all, no matter what age, no matter what class, rich, poor, you still should get the same type of health treatment as anybody else that has the money to afford that. And again, President Trump is the president, so he's going to get the top care. He's going to get the top care, and it's just so hypocritical that like he's getting these free social things, and he's fighting against that. He doesn't want people out there getting this, but he goes in front of a camera and touts that he's able to receive these things that people who are waving Trump flags aren't able to get. And but it's crazy seeing people that they don't care. People are they're more honed in on making the other person mad, or getting that person to gaslight that person, gaslighting. And even if it hurts them, but it's a bunch of people, and that's what's so scary about November, because you got to give credit what credit's due. Trump bases, they have enthusiasm, and they're ready to go vote, and they don't care if Trump policies are hurting them. They don't care if it's hurting other people. They don't care if long as my president's okay, and long as he's continuing to say stuff on Twitter that has no impact directly positively on my life, I'm still going to go out there and support this man, even though he hasn't did a damn thing for me in 4 years since he's been in office. And it's just honestly, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. I don't know what November is going to bring. I'm kind of nervous. I'm not going to lie. With everything that's been going on, with everything that has happened, I'm just scared that, just like a whole amount of other things that have taken place within these 4 years, we're seeming like we're just going to get numb to or whatever, and that's scary. Just being numb to everything. And we've gotten we got kind of complacent with the whole wearing the mask. People are kind of easing up their protocols on taking steps to be safe during this pandemic that we have going on. And I understand, like, it sucks not being able to go places and not have your mask on, and being able to just like do what you did before all this happened. But it's just one of those things. I feel like if we would have been more cooperative from the get-go, we wouldn't have been in this type of spot. Maybe we wouldn't have got rid of all the cases, but I damn sure don't think that we would have been ticking upwards, and that's what we're doing. And we're about to enter, the winter, flu season on top of Corona. And, I don't think that's going to be a good look, especially when you got the president out here that's talking about, you have nothing to worry about. I'm just fine. You can take your mask off. You don't have to wear a mask. You don't have nothing to be afraid of when it comes to COVID and stuff like that. Like, I just think that that's just like the wrong message to be conveying to people, man. And you have over 210,000 people dead because of COVID, because they couldn't get that type of access treatment that you got, Mr. President. Because, our government don't allow everybody to get equal shakes, equal slices of the pie, and I don't know. That was my vent, though. That was my freestyle vent. You guys haven't checked out what Trump said or how he was looking when he said it, how he was talking about, this COVID stuff, you ain't got nothing to fear and all that. Like, it's just, if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen the deep breathing that he was doing on top of the balcony, and that's another thing. Before I let you guys go, he was when he got off Air Force One, they had the camera take a shot at him walking up the staircase in the White House. So I could only assume that had to been like a photo op, because he wanted to show people that, like, I just got the hospital and I'm doing just fine and yada, yada, yada. So he climbed all those freaking stairs. And when he got up at the top, they zoomed in on his face and you can like see him vigorously like breathing hard. And it wouldn't like that breathe to where like it's a lot of stairs and like you kind of tired. It was like one of those, like, I just got out the hospital and I'm still sick from COVID and like I'm lacking oxygen right now type of breathing. So it ain't funny, it's serious. I mean, I just hope that everything's okay. I don't wish death upon anybody, but I just find it ironic that like he's been calling this thing a hoax the whole time, and it's not real, and it's just gonna magically disappear, and you can take hydroxychloroquine and it'll go away, and it's just so fitting that like he's sick from this hoax. Why would you be claiming you have coronavirus if you think it's fake? And hydroxychloroquine, you was telling people months ago to take this product, that it'll just like, it'll kill the disease. It'll take it'll cure corona, it'll help it out, and stuff like that. And his doctor is crazy. His doctor didn't even prescribe him hydroxychloroquine to take. Why aren't you taking hydroxychloroquine if you're pushing that out to the public to take? Things like that. So again, it's sowing doubt into these institutions that we rely on, and it can become a madhouse. It's already a madhouse, and I'm just hoping that the American people have seen enough. They've felt the burden of the coronavirus. If that's losing a loved one, if that's unfortunately being evicted from their home, if that's unfortunately having their unemployment slashed because they got laid off from their job because their job couldn't sustain any kind of business because of COVID. All those factors, I think, play a part in it. So yeah, guys, that's my freestyle for today. That's my vintage session. I hope you guys have a fabulous week. The vice president debate comes on Wednesday, so I'm going to probably be watching that. I'm sure I'm going to be tweeting about that or saying something about that on social media. So yeah, guys, if you haven't followed me already, I follow back, of course. I'm usually on Twitter. And my Twitter handle is Dottie_vibe. That's DODI_VIBE. And yeah, you can follow me there, and I'm going to probably be tuning into that. I think I actually have to work Wednesday, so I'm going to probably record it and get me another thing of wine so I can drink my sorrows away from the debate. Hopefully it won't be as terrible as the one with Trump and Biden. That was just catastrophic. But yeah, guys, I'm going to talk to you hopefully Sunday. I know I was a little late publishing this, but bear with me, guys. It's a thing called life that we all have to go through, and sometimes it doesn't always work out the way you want to work out. But I really, really thank you guys for continuing to listen to me and check me out. And I really, really do love you guys. And the people who listen to me, listen to my podcast, the people who I know that listen to my podcast, and I'm not talking about people that I don't know, because the people who I don't know that listen to my podcast, I appreciate you just like the people who I do know that listen to my podcast. But the people who do listen to my podcast that I know directly, I want to really, really thank you guys, and thank you for, continuing to, push me and, tell me that, what you're doing is helpful and, I wouldn't say cool, because who really thinks politics is cool, like, honestly. But nonetheless, I want to thank everybody who I do know personally that continues to be on my side and be in my corner and help me through the thick and thin. It really, really means a lot. And I hope that, this country as a whole gets more of that. I really, really feel like we'll be better off from a human standpoint, guys. But I'm going to let you guys go. Everybody have a blessed, safe week. Continue to wear your mask. Continue to be safe. If you go protest peacefully. Continue to fight the good fight. And I'm going to check you guys out really, really soon. So you guys have a wonderful week, and bless up. Peace out.